Welcome to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, thank you for being with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about awkward retirement topics, but stay with us. These are important conversations. And so today's show is going to be a lot of fun. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
Good to see you.
Excited about today's show, too.
Me too. It's going to be
Although
great.
It is a little awkward.
It's a little awkward. We're going to get through it, though. We're going to do our best. Kristen, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, I'm also excited about today's show because this is interesting. There is a social scientist, a study that was done. People who seem a little awkward often are the most empathetic and self-aware. It turns out people that are socially awkward are actually spending a little bit more time thinking about how they come across, and they don't want to say anything that would hurt their feelings. I think that is so amazing. So I don't think that we are awkward people necessarily. I mean,
I don't know, but my son Jaden is, and he actually, I guess, kind of goes against this study a little bit because he is very empathetic and very, worried about what other people think. But he will do some very awkward things. So he's a basket of discrepancies, is what I call him.
He speaks his mind, right?
Yes. Yes, when he was younger, I would get nervous quite often. Like, okay, that looks weird. Let me redirect him because he might say something I'm going to have to explain that he doesn't understand.
Yes, Ariana went through that phase as well. And I just, how you just feel the blood just coming to your face because you're mortified?
Yes.
We had a few of those moments.
Yeah.
That was awkward.
Awkward.
Yes.
Being a parent is awkward in general.
It is.
It was awkward for my parents when we went to my Uncle Danny's wedding, and I insisted on dressing like Batman.
But they let you do it.
Well, I was kind of a rambunctious kid.
I've heard that's where Jaden gets it.
So let me get this right. You walked into the wedding with a full Batman costume?
I had the mask, I had the belt, I had the cape. I was the Cape Crusader. Yes.
Okay.
And
but
my twin Stingray was my Batmobile. Yes.
How old were you, though?
5.
Okay, now you weren't like 21 or anything.
No.
Okay,
well,
so that's not awkward. I think it's kind of cute. I was laughing like, okay, if you're a little older, maybe that would be awkward. But young, you can get away with anything when you're really young or really old, is what I think. But speaking of awkward, I mean, we all have those commercials that we see or the radio ads for I just use one of the accident lawyers. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I just can't take it. Not another one.
Oh, I know.
But do you think that sometimes people feel that way about financial advisors, that they don't know where to turn, they don't know who to trust? Can that be a little awkward for people?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that because just about a week ago, we got a call. Well, I got a call from Jessica. She was in her office and she's like, Kristen, I need to tell you about this phone call I just got. And she proceeds to explain to me that this lady had been watching, or actually listening to the radio show. She was listening to the radio show for over a year. And she finally decided to call in. And she said, I really like what Greg and Kristen have to say. But when Greg goes on by himself, I really don't like him that much.
Uh-oh.
And Jessica's like, he doesn't go on by himself unless it's a week where Kristen's out or something. But are you sure it was Greg Taylor? And she's like, oh, well, maybe I'm mixing him up with someone else.
Oh my.
So, I think that the space of media has gotten very crowded. Especially in our industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it is hard to sort through the noise, if you will, of all the different voices that you hear and really trying to understand what resonates with you and your family. And that's okay. That's actually good that there's so many options for people today because not everyone that comes into our office is a fit. And so we are able to, through media, let you watching and listening to our show every week really get to know who we are. And that's part of the decision-making process.
Absolutely.
Making sure that you like who it is that you're going to work with for a number of years and talk to about your money. And it's an intimate topic that you're talking about.
It is. It's highly personal for people.
In every major field, I believe there's different aspects or what you might call specialties in that field. That's that way with attorneys. Some people are
estate planning,
some,
family law.
Yes, some do that. Some are litigation. As we talked about. So there's a lot of different types. Some are corporate. The same thing is true with financial advisors. There's people that we know that are great people that focus on college planning. They're financial professionals. They do a great job. They're helping families in a very important part of their life, which is getting their children through college. And so that's an important part, but that has nothing to do with the retirement plan. There are those who work in the big, what we would call the brokerage firms that help people from the time they're, start working and saving to build a nest egg towards retirement. And that's a very important aspect of the financial field.
Right.
But typically that aspect doesn't transition very well into the retirement years. It's a totally different mindset. It's a totally different type of strategy. And then you have what we would call retirement planners, those who work with people primarily 60 and older. And there's really a threefold goal with a retirement planner. One is to make sure people have enough liquidity to live well today.
Okay.
Make sure they have enough income to maintain their lifestyle for the rest of their days, and make sure they have enough growth to keep up with inflation, healthcare, and the possibility of increased taxes. So that's a threefold system, threefold goal, and it's a different type of expertise than the other type. So
Makes
a lot
sense.
of times people aren't working with a bad planner; they're just working with the wrong planner,
Yeah.
and that's very important.
Of course.
If I need surgery on my heart and I go see a podiatrist, I'm in a little bit of trouble.
Absolutely.
Right? I've gone to. It's not.
Right.
I'm sure they're a great podiatrist. They're just not ready to give me heart surgery.
That's right.
And that's really important here, because a lot of times people get confused with good and bad versus wrong. And I find there's a lot of good people out there that are just trying to do things that are beyond what they're really experienced at.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Would you recommend, Kristen, interviewing different advisors to find out if you're a really good fit?
Absolutely. And I would encourage it beyond recommendation, because again, as you watch and listen to different people and hear different voices, of course, there's a few things that should be true of anyone that you work with. They should be a fiduciary.
Yes.
They should have the legal obligation to do what's in your best interests as a firm. And then also they should have a clear process and a commitment to you as their advisor, right? And so you're looking for those things. And so as you're going through the interview process, as you meet with different advisors, you're kind of checking off the boxes and asking the questions based on understanding that they are able to fit those parameters that you have for your retirement plan. And then beyond that, they have to have the resources available to help you in all the areas of retirement, because it isn't just about your money. So as you go through those criteria, as you're sitting with different advisors, and I don't think you have to share that criteria with them. You go through and check off the box, and then you start making your decision based on those things.
What I love so much is that in another show that we were talking about, you asked so many questions. And we had a case study recently. It was a client actually that came in, and she was so impressed because you took the time, it was Greg and the team as well, to ask questions that no one else had asked her before. She sat with one financial advisor and they wanted her to sign that same day.
Yeah.
Greg, could you spend a little bit of time talking about that before we take our first commercial break? Because that's important to know.
It really is, because first of all, with this particular lady, yes, she sat down with an advisor. They said, this is bad, this is bad, this is wrong, just by looking at it on the surface. And I have a game plan in mind for you. To get started, I just need you to sign a few papers. And she's like, well, can you explain why something's wrong? And can you explain what it is you're going to do? And the advisor looked at her and said, well, if I do that, then you could go do it on your own.
Unbelievable.
So
Simply unbelievable.
But that goes against one of our core principles, which is this: no investment decision should be made outside the context of your plan.
That's right.
So therefore, your plan determines where you put your money. So those two principles of planning right there tell me that there's no way I could give someone advice at the first meeting, because I haven't had enough time to test out what it is they're currently doing to really a standard that
To
would
apply it to what you understand about what they want to do.
That's true.
Exactly. So I said to this lady, I said, we'll test everything. We'll come back. We'll let you know what we find. If we find there's some things that need to be fixed, we'll explain what they are. We'll explain how to fix it and what tools we'll use to do so. And then you'll have time to consider it. She just took a deep breath, because she was so worried when she came in that we were going to ask her to sign papers at the first meeting. We don't ask people to sign papers at the first meeting. We don't ask people to sign papers at the second meeting. Once they have an opportunity to decide for themselves what's right and wrong, then we schedule a time for them to come on board. But that's the cart before the horse. You need to make sure that you have the answers to what people need. It should not be a sales process. It should be a meeting a need process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what retirement planning is all about.
Thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, you deserve to have a complete planning review. Well, how do you get that? Call in today to 614-336-7660. You've worked your entire life to get to the retirement years. How do you know that someone's asking you the right questions for your situation? It's so critical to get this right, especially when you're looking at your golden years. You don't want to make mistakes that could cost money. The complete planning review is complimentary with the Legacy Retirement Group's team. All you have to do is call in today, 614-336-7660. 614-336-7660. We're talking all about things that are awkward conversation, if you will, in retirement, but this is not awkward. Stay tuned. We'll be right back momentarily.
Have you visited LegacyRetirementGroup.com lately? Not only can you easily schedule an appointment by clicking on Schedule Now, you can visit the Tools section and request a free copy of Legacy's My Retirement Kit. Simply fill in your email address and a few other details. Then check your email and you'll find a 10-page retirement kit in your inbox that can help you become better organized. Legacy's My Retirement Kit is designed to help you take a personal inventory and assign realistic values to your assets for what lies ahead. It's a key first step towards creating a true financial plan for your future. And you can do it for free at home right now. To be clear, this does not take the place of a retirement plan or estate plan, but it will help you get organized for the future of your retirement. Visit LegacyRetirementGroup.com and click on Tools to request your My Retirement Kit today. That's LegacyRetirementGroup.com.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And we're talking all about some things that can sometimes feel awkward when you're planning for your retirement. Well, Greg and Kristen, I love today's show. I think it's so interesting. I know that discussing money can sometimes feel awkward for people. It's very personal. And I think one of the things that we should talk about would be building a strong retirement. But what about taxes, those hidden taxes that affect the legacy that you might leave behind for your kids? What happens then? And how do you tell your kids? How do you tell your kids about taxes?
Well, I have a funny story. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm meeting with this couple, and they're telling me their story, and they're talking about why they came in. We're doing all those things, and the husband says, "And by the way, I'm going to retire in January." The wife looks at him, and she said, "When did you decide this?"
That's awkward.
That was awkward.
That's awkward.
I said, "What?" She's like, "We have not discussed this." And she's like, "Are you sure you're ready to retire?" So now, for the next half hour, we're talking about why they are talking, and I'm just kind of sitting there, actually.
Yeah, what else could you do?
So, but we did finally get it on track, and I said, "Well, so what you're really looking for is permission to be able to retire." And he looked at his wife and he said, "Yeah, I guess I am looking for permission."
Pretty much.
To be able
He wanted to have a witness in the room when he brought it up, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay.
So there's so many things that come about when you want to retire, and there's making sure you get the right risk, making sure that you've got the right income, making sure that you can take care of health care. But then there's this thing about taxes, and I would say at least 8 out of 10 families that come through the door, or individuals that come through the door, have some concern about taxes. What's really interesting, And so I was meeting with another family, or our team was meeting with a family here recently, and they come in, and I said, "What brought you in?" They said, "Taxes." I said, "Well, let's talk about that. What particularly about taxes has you concerned?" They said, "Well, we've saved over $2 million in our 401k accounts. And when I listen to you on radio every week, all I hear is you talking about how, an IRA is an IOU to the IRS.
It's
That's
catchy.
true.
Yeah.
I love it. It
Yes.
works.
And that's so true. And they said what scares us most is when you say, the more it grows, the more you owe.
It's true.
And that's true as well. Because I said, so, and they were in their mid 60s. One was 63, one was 65. And so I said, so if you don't need any of that money until you're 73, there's a possibility that $2 million could now be over $3 million. So instead of owing Uncle Sam tax on $2 million, you would owe Uncle Sam tax on $3 million. So the first exercise we did was we started looking at what the tax bill could be if they just took required minimum distributions and one of them lived at least age 95.
Okay.
Okay? The tax bill over their lifetime was over $3 million. Wow. And we're talking about $2 million of.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
So then we looked at the possibility of converting all the 2 million. Now, in their case, I didn't recommend converting all of it, but we looked at that scenario, and if they converted all 2 million, they would owe about somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 in tax over the conversion period. So if we looked at that $600,000 approximately in taxes they would owe versus $3 million, that was a possibility. But as I tell every family when they come in, income, or our team does, income equals lifestyle.
Income is the outcome, truly.
It really is.
When you think about it from that
Income is
perspective.
the outcome.
Yeah.
But I think that tax conversation is so important, and that's why we provided the source right on our website for testmyretirement.com.
I love
is.
that.
And it's
Yes.
so easy. You click learn more, you populate a few pieces of information, if you will.
Yes.
And now you start to see the reports of what your potential tax burden could be.
Yeah.
And those conversations can start being had around those dollars and how you want them to maybe pass on to your heirs. What things can you do? What steps can you take now to make those dollars as efficient and pay as little as tax as necessary,
As possible, yeah.
so that you can be efficient with your money.
Absolutely.
Yes. And the testmyretirement.com gives you the big picture of what is possible.
Yeah.
And then we have a Roth conversion report when people come in, which actually makes it more specific to them and their particular need, their particular situation, where we show basically 3 possible outcomes: Uncle Sam's plan, a Roth conversion plan, and then there's a third plan in the middle that takes into account possible income needs during their lifetime as well as Roth conversions.
It gets more in detail of what dollars look like for
Amazing.
with taxes.
It does. And even without doing Roth conversions, it's possible to potentially cut your tax bill in half just by looking forward and being proactive with it. So when it comes to taxes, don't wait, because the longer you wait, the more it costs you.
Most definitely. And there's a difference, before we go to commercial break, in case someone in the viewing audience is wondering, between tax preparation and tax planning. We're talking about 2 totally different things.
Yes.
Tax preparation is you do once a year with your accountant. Tax planning is really looking down the highway of what's to come. So
Yes,
thank
that's
you
a
both
good
so
point.
much. Absolutely. Greg, thank you. Kristen, thank you. To the viewers at home, remember that website is testmyretirement.com. If you're in the viewing audience and you're asking yourself, how do I know what my current tax burden is? Have I made plans for this? Well, don't wait any longer. Pick up your phone, snap the QR code at the bottom corner of your screen. It takes you right to the landing page of Legacy Retirement Group. And most importantly, it takes you right to testmyretirement.com. That's testmyretirement.com. Put a little information about yourself. We think you'll be very surprised about what your current tax burden is today versus some changes down the road. Remember, tax planning and tax preparation are totally different. So please visit testmyretirement.com. We're going to take a very short commercial break here on Winning Retirement TV. Stay tuned. We have so much more with Greg and Kristen when we return.
Have you been wondering if a Roth conversion is a good idea? Do you feel a lack of confidence in Washington when it comes to future taxes during your retirement years? You should probably visit testmyretirement.com. It's Legacy Retirement Group's latest no-cost resource for soon-to-be and current retirees. Testmyretirement.com is super simple to navigate. After After clicking on Learn More, you'll fill in a few pieces of information, and within 30 seconds, you'll see a personalized analysis of your total potential taxes in retirement using your existing approach, compared to what's possible with some adjustments. Every situation is different, but if you don't want to be in debt to Uncle Sam, go to testmyretirement.com to find out if you can possibly reduce your future retirement obligations. Get started now at testmyretirement.com.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And we're talking about some awkward conversations and how you can have those when you're planning your retirement. But something else that's a little awkward, I don't know if you both feel about it this way, but if you're on the elevator with someone that you don't know, that awkward moment of making small talk, like, what do you think about the weather today? Like, how's the weather? It's just awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if you're in one of those tall high-rise buildings and you're in the elevator for a little while, but I'm kind of weird, I'll admit. And sometimes I just do things for, the excitement of seeing the reaction, and I'll talk to people and they're,
You're like Tony, my husband's like that. Yeah, he is the same way.
Especially if they're awkwardly looking like to the left or the right, they don't want to look in the eye.
Right.
That's just kind of a like
call them out on it.
Especially if you're close by, because that's like personal space.
Oh yeah.
So then you're like, how you doing today? Or just you got to break that ice.
Yes.
That can be very, very uncomfortable.
Well, I can't imagine anyone not wanting to talk to either one of you in the elevator, because you're always so friendly and so warm. But we should talk about this as well. This is a little bit something that's awkward as well. People that are getting married, let's say over 50, this is a little awkward. But what are your thoughts on having a prenuptial agreement?
Well, I'll start with this because it is awkward, but it's awkward from a couple standpoints, because talking about money in general is a taboo subject still.
That's true.
And I think it's gotten better over the last, almost 20 years that I've been in this industry. But it still is awkward, because even between husband and wives, a lot of time, there's a little bit of secrecy between the money that they've had, or couples before they get married. And so if you talk about a prenup, what's your first indication going to be as the other partner?
That the marriage isn't going to work, that it's going to fail.
It's going to work, or that there's money there that they don't want to tell me about. And then you're going into it thinking, oh, well, I don't even know everything there is to know about this person, right?
Bingo.
And so that's what makes it really awkward. But I think it's a healthy conversation to have around if there's children from previous marriages, especially on both sides. And what's nice is it's proactive. It prevents issues of either spouse having issues with the children should something happen, because it's all in place, right?
That's true.
Also protecting assets, obviously, because the topic of money is taboo. Protecting the assets is just as taboo. What do you want to protect it from? Like you said, that, what do you think it's not going to work?
Yeah.
But in the cases that we've seen, it's been a good, healthy conversation. It's not been extremely awkward, at least from the perspective that we've come into the conversation on.
Okay.
Yes. And, there was a situation where a couple came in, they were going to get married, and they'd both been married before. They both had their own children. And, the wife's like, my husband died of cancer. He saved all this money, and of course, it's always a team effort, but the husband was primarily the saver.
Okay.
And they had children, and they didn't really, she was worried that if they commingled their money, that her kids would get disinherited.
Right. Protect the children.
Okay.
So, but it did bring something up in that conversation that she hadn't thought of. And that is, at least in the state of Ohio, that even though you can separate your money, whether it be a prenup or other ways, when it comes to long-term care, whether there's a prenup or not, if you're married, all the money's in one bucket for spend-down purposes.
Wow. Okay.
So if you marry somebody and you've got assets and they don't, maybe they didn't save well, maybe they weren't able to. There's lots of things that could have happened in life. And so if that person were to go to a nursing home, your assets are at risk of being spent down for their care. So you have to bear that in mind if, as you're entering into that new relationship. Okay, so I'm having this conversation with them. Okay, if you're going to go into this, yes, if you have the prenup, that's fine. Money's exposed to long-term care. So you probably want to invest in a plan that would cover him in the event that he needed nursing home care, so that you don't put all of your assets at risk. And we talked about the different options. There's traditional long-term care insurance that can help protect assets, but that typically goes up in price every year, and it's hard to predict what those costs might be in the future. So less and less people are eager to jump into that situation, although that is certainly a viable option, long-term care insurance. Then there are hybrid contracts, which is what this lady chose to do, put $200,000 in a contract that earned interest every year, and was initially earning 6% interest. It gave the husband, if he, when they got married, it gave the husband over $600,000 of long-term care benefit. So even if he went through all that benefit, all of her assets that would be at risk then would be the $200,000. And that protected the rest of her nest egg, which was pretty significant. So in that case, that turned out to be an option for them. There's income planning we can do where we can potentially double the income for long-term care benefits. And that's something that we do quite often because it doesn't require an extra premium or cost to generate those benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's life insurance. You can buy life insurance, and a lot of those life insurance policies have what's called a chronic illness benefit that will pay for home health care, assisted living, nursing home care, memory care, if you can't perform 2 out of 6 of your activities of daily living. So protect the kids, protect the assets, do all these things to protect, but don't leave the door open for a major health crisis to come in and really submarine your plan.
Most definitely. I mean, what it comes down to, all the awkward conversations that we had today, it comes down to the need for proper planning. Wouldn't you agree that it doesn't become awkward anymore, it just becomes comfortable?
Well, what we've found is as we sit down with families and they start the planning process, it's a little awkward at first, but then they are so happy and relieved that they actually did it, and it isn't awkward anymore. All the information's out on the table. Now it's peace of mind.
Kristen, thank you so much. Greg, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, the number to call is 614-336-7660, 614-336-7660. Don't miss the opportunity to grab your complete planning review. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today. Take care now. We'll see you soon.